Welcome to Mastermind with me, John Humphrys. In the spotlight tonight are Nigel Taylor, a veterinary surgeon whose specialist subject is Louis Pasteur. Eve Telford, a law graduate who will be answering questions on Downton Abbey. Catherine Crouch, a garden designer whose subject is the gardener Margery Fish. And David Wood, a data privacy manager whose specialist subject is the films of Edgar Wright. Four people who are not doing this for money, because there isn't any, but are hoping for a bit of recognition. And you certainly get that if you become the nation's mastermind. Standing in their way of that great honour, 2 minutes on their specialist subject, 2.5 minutes of questions on general knowledge, and all the pressure that goes with being in this studio. So let's have our first contender, please. And your name is?
Nigel Taylor.
Your occupation?
A veterinary surgeon.
And your chosen subject?
Louis Pasteur.
The 19th century French chemist. Here we go, 2 minutes. One of Pasteur's best-known achievements is his development of the pasteurization process. He first used the technique to preserve an alcoholic drink. What drink?
Wine.
Yep. Shortly before he moved to Strasbourg, Pasteur was appointed as a professor at the Dijon Lycée in 1848. To teach what?
Organic chemistry.
Physics. In 1849, Pasteur married the daughter of the rector of the University of Strasbourg. What was her first name?
Marie.
Yes. What was the name of the industrialist who, in 1856, asked Pasteur for help to solve problems in making beetroot alcohol?
Monsieur Pigot.
Yes. What process, particularly important in brewing, was the subject of an 1860 dissertation by Pasteur?
Fermentation.
Yes. At the age of 32, Pasteur was appointed Professor of Chemistry and Dean of the Faculty of Sciences at a university in northern France. Which one?
Lyon.
Lille. In 1865, Pasteur was asked by the chemist Jean-Baptiste Dumas to study the diseases of what creature?
Silkworm.
Yes. Alexander Dumas and George Sand were among those who went to a lecture on spontaneous generation given by Pasteur on April 7th, 1864. The lecture took place at which educational institution?
The École Normale Supérieure?
The Sorbonne. What new field of study, sometimes called spatial chemistry, was founded by Pasteur when he established the molecular asymmetry of tartaric and paratartaric acid?
Stereochemistry?
Yes. In 1885, 9-year-old Joseph Meister was one of the first test subjects for a new vaccine Pasteur had developed. When he arrived at his laboratory, he was believed to be suffering from what disease?
Rabies.
Yes. Which Danish brewery founded a laboratory in 1875 in order to build on Pasteur's insights into brewing?
Carlsberg.
Yes. In 1880, Pasteur investigated a case of a girl with osteomyelitis at Trousseau Hospital and discovered that it was caused by a particular genus of bacteria. Which one?
Microsporidium.
Staphylococcus. And your time is up. You've had no passes, Nigel. You've scored 8 points. And our next contender, please. And your name is?
Eve Telford.
Your occupation?
I'm a law graduate.
And your specialist subject?
Downton Abbey.
The award-winning Downton Abbey in 2 minutes. Here we go. In Downton Abbey's first episode, the Earl of Grantham receives a telegram telling him that his relatives, Patrick and James Crawley, have died in which maritime disaster?
The sinking of the Titanic.
Yep. Matthew Crawley's fiancée, the niece of a prominent Liberal minister, dies of Spanish flu. What's her first name?
Lavinia.
Yep. Downton Abbey is co-produced by PBS for their masterpiece strand of programming, and by which other production company?
Carnival.
Yes. At the beginning of the 5th series, in what the Radio Times described as the most Downton line of dialogue of all time, Lady Mary announces that she's going upstairs to do what?
Take off her hat?
Yes. Julian Fellowes wrote all but 2 episodes of Downton Abbey himself. One was a collaboration with Tina Pepler. The other he co-wrote with a dramatist whose other works include the play The Memory of Water. What's her name?
Minky Spiro.
Sheila Stevenson. Who composed the music for Downton Abbey? His other television works include Waking the Dead and Grantchester.
John Lunn.
Yes, after their marriage, Carson and Mrs. Hughes spent their honeymoon in which coastal town? Lady Mary remarks they could have managed a little better.
Scarborough.
Yes, at the beginning of Series 4, Carson discovers that his former partner in the double act, the Cheerful Charlies, is living at a workhouse. What's this former partner's surname?
Greg.
Yep. What is the name of the magazine editor who takes exception to all the ideas of his manager, Lady Edith? She suspects that he doesn't like working for a woman. Simple as that.
Pass.
Scenes depicting Downton Village were filmed in a market town in the Cotswolds where tourists are known to have tried to visit the Grantham Arms only to discover that it's somebody's house. Which town?
Bampton.
Yep. Lady Mary breaks up with her racing driver boyfriend, Henry Talbot, after a fatal crash. At which track?
Brooklands.
Yeah. Bertie Pelham discovers that he's the heir to his cousin, Lord Hexham, after Hexham's sudden death in an African city. Which city?
Tangiers.
Yes. Which actor plays a recurring role as Sir Anthony Strallan, a romantic interest of Lady Edith who jilts her at the altar?
Robert Bathurst.
Correct. And your time is up. You have one pass. The name of the magazine editor who takes exception to all the ideas of his manager, Lady Edith, was Mr. Skinner. You have, however, scored, Eve, 11 points.
Thank you.
And our next contender, please. And your name is?
Catherine Crouch,
Your occupation?
garden designer.
And your chosen subject?
Margery Fish, the gardener.
The author and gardener who became a leading figure in English cottage gardening. 2 minutes. At which house in Somerset did Margery Fish and her husband Walter establish their garden from the late 1930s? She continued for many years on her own after his death in 1947.
East Lambrook Manor.
Yep, but which newspaper was Margery working when she met Walter, whom she married in 1933? He was the editor of the paper, and she'd worked as his personal assistant.
The Daily Mail.
Yep, Walter Fish had a particular passion for a certain plant, although Margery herself expressed the view that its more flashy varieties were only fit for the circus. Which plant?
Dahlia.
Yes, according to her book, We Made a Garden, what unusual tool did Fish use for deadheading? Because, as she said, one can slash off a lot of heads in a very short time.
A sword.
Yes, Fish wrote about a variety of geranium. I first saw it growing among rocks in a nursery in Worcestershire and felt I couldn't live without it. What variety?
Geranium palmatum.
Buxton's Blue. A prestigious award was given to Fish in 1963 by the Royal Horticultural Society for the creation of her garden at East Lambrook and for her writing. Which award?
The Silver Veitch Medal.
Yes. Fish said of one of her first rock garden plants that it was the most inveterate invader I've ever met. My heart softens when I see its really pretty, flat, pink rosettes, but most of the time it is war. What plant was she describing?
Saponaria officinalis, bouncing bet.
The stone crop. For which country lifestyle magazine did Fish write her first article in 1951? She subsequently wrote on gardening for many other magazines.
Amateur gardening.
The Field. What is the common name for the plant of the mint family, which Fish valued for its pleasantly pungent scent, but objected to for its habit of spreading itself in rather untidy loops and flusters?
Pennyroyal.
Yes. Fish was awarded an MBE for her role as personal assistant to the head of the British mission to the United States during the First World War. Who was the head of that mission?
Lord Northcliffe.
Yes. Which herb did Fish grow primarily for its wonderful colouring? She said that after a shower of rain, it looked like blue smoke.
Ruta graveolens, Jackman's Blue.
Fennel. When Fish died in hospital after a short illness in 1969, East Lambrook Manor was bequeathed to her nephew. What's his name?
Henry Boyd Carpenter.
Is correct. And you had no passes, Catherine. You have 8 points. And our final contender, please. And your name is?
David Wood,
Your occupation?
Data Privacy Manager.
And your specialist subject?
The films of Edgar Wright.
The director and screenwriter behind some of the most popular British comedy films of the 21st century. Here we go, 2 minutes. Who plays the lead role in Edgar Wright's Three Flavors Cornetto film trilogy, which consists of Shaun the Dead, Hot Fuzz and The World's End? He also co-wrote the screenplays for the trilogy with Wright.
Simon Pegg.
Yep. Shaun of the Dead was filmed on location in various parts of London, and at which famous film studio?
Pinewood.
Ealing. In Hot Fuzz, Danny and Nicholas watched 2 action films from Danny's vast DVD collection. What film do they watch before viewing Bad Boys 2?
Point Break.
Yes. In The World's End, Stephen Prince drives Gary King's car, the Beast, through the front of a pub to save Gary and Andy from the androids. Which pub was this, the 11th of the Golden Mile pub crawl?
The Hole in the Wall.
Yep. In Baby Driver, what Queen song from the album Sheer Heart Attack does Baby select as his killer track when he's driving? Buddy plays it on his personal stereo at the film's climax in a car park when he tries to kill Baby.
Brighton Rock.
Yep, Wright's 2010 film Scott Pilgrim vs. the World is based on a graphic novel series published by Onay Press. Which author wrote the novel?
Brian Lee O'Malley.
Yes. What is the first name of the evil ex-boyfriend of Ramona Flowers, who's defeated by Scott Pilgrim? When Pilgrim tricks him into drinking a non-vegan white coffee, he's subsequently arrested by the vegan police.
Lucas.
Todd. Sean and Ed defend themselves against zombies by throwing records at them from Sean's prized vinyl collection. Which film's soundtrack album by Prince is among the discs thrown by Ed?
Batman.
Yep. In the opening sequence of Hot Fuzz, Nicholas Angel tells us that he graduated from university with a double first in politics and sociology. Which university?
Pass.
What was the childhood nickname of Oliver Chamberlain in The World's End? It was given to him because of a birthmark on his forehead that looked like a number 6.
Oh, man.
Yep. JD has a tattoo of the word hat on his neck in Baby Driver. The original tattoo, before he had it amended to improve his employment chances, was a what longer word?
Hate.
Yes. In The World's End, what collective name does Gary King's gang use to refer to Erica Leakes, Tracy Benson and Becky Salt, because 2 of them are blonde and the 3rd's a redhead?
The Marmalade Sandwich.
Yes. What is the first name of the only female police officer at Sanford Police Station in Hot Fuzz? She's played by Olivia Colman.
Doris.
Is correct. 1 pass. He got a double first, allegedly, in politics and sociology at Canterbury University. You have 10 points. Nice high-scoring round there. Let's have a look at all of the scores. In joint 3rd place, 8 points apiece, Nigel and Catherine. 2nd place with 10 points, David. 1st place, 11 points, Eve. So it is the general knowledge round now, and if there's a tie at the end of it, then the number of passes is taken into account, and the person with the fewer passes is the winner. And if they're tied on passes as well, there has to be a tie break. So let's get on with it and ask Nigel to take the chair again, please. And Nigel, you start out with 8 points, loads of time to overtake the field, because we have 2.5 minutes, of course, for general knowledge. Here we go. On a standard UK computer keyboard, which consonant is directly to the left of the letter W?
X.
Q. Which duo song Everybody Wants to Rule the World was rewritten as Everybody Wants to Run the World for the Sport Aid campaign that culminated in the Race Against Time event in 1986?
Simple Minds.
Tears for Fears. In 1941, the cargo ship SS Politician ran aground off the Scottish island of Eriskay. It was the inspiration for a 1947 novel by Compton Mackenzie. Which novel?
Whiskey Galore.
Yep. Which Russian scientist carried out a series of experiments on classical conditioning in the 1890s, researching the salivation of dogs in response to stimuli?
Pavlov.
Yep. Isoflurane, desflurane and sevoflurane are volatile liquids that are widely used for what medical purpose?
They're used as anaesthetics.
Yes, in the television soap EastEnders. What's the full name of the character introduced in the first episode in 1985 and played by Adam Woodyard?
Craig Beale.
Ian Beale, which American jazz clarinetist and band leader is often credited as the first high-profile white musician to perform in public in a racially mixed band after he hired the black pianist Teddy Wilson to be part of a trio with himself and the drummer Gene Krupa in 1935.
Benny Goodman?
Yep. The 1975 film Jaws, set on the fictional Amity Island, was filmed almost entirely on location on an island off the coast of Cape Cod, Massachusetts. What island?
Amity?
Martha's Vineyard. What name is given to a very low tide that occurs when the Earth, Moon and Sun are at right angles? It's the opposite of a spring tide.
A neap tide?
Yes. What soft fruit is known in Italian as fragola and in Spanish as fresa?
Clementine?
Strawberry. Who became Emperor of Japan in May 2019 after the abdication of his father, Emperor Akihito?
Hirohito.
Naruhito. Which carbohydrate is the main structural component of the cell walls of plants?
Cellulose.
Yes. Which North African country's national flag consists of a red background with a central white disc that contains a red crescent and star? It was adopted in the 1830s.
Morocco?
Tunisia. In conventional chess notation, an exclamation mark denotes a particularly good move. What other symbol denotes a bad move?
A comma.
Question mark. Sheerness is the main town on which island in the Thames estuary?
Canvey.
Sheppey. Which French politician was president of the European Commission from 1985 to 95? He oversaw the introduction of the single market between member states.
Jacques Delors.
Is correct. And you had no passes. You have now a total of 15 points.
Thank you.
And Catherine again now, please. And you have 8 points as well to start this round, Catherine. 2.5 minutes of general knowledge starting now. Which American film actress is the daughter of the film stars Tony Curtis and Janet Leigh?
Janet Lee Curtis.
Jamie Lee Curtis. 2 countries on the mainland of South America do not share a border with Brazil. Chile is one. Which is the other?
Peru.
Ecuador. In June 2019, it was announced that the joint hosts of the 2026 Winter Olympics and Paralympics would be the Italian resorts of Cortina d'Ampezzo and which Italian city?
Zermatt.
Milan. What is the name of the Hindu god of prophecy? He's the son of Shiva and Parvati and is typically depicted as having the head of an elephant.
Pass.
Which branch of the British Armed Forces has the motto Per Ardua ad Astra?
The Air Force.
Yes. The toxicity of a substance is typically quantified in terms of its LD50, which is the amount of the substance that kills 50% of test subjects exposed to it. What do the letters LD stand for in that context?
Lethal dose.
Yes. Which 1970 comedy film directed by Robert Altman is set during the Korean War and follows the adventures of the army surgeons Hawkeye Pierce and trapper John McIntyre?
MASH.
Yep. What earldom was held by Robert Devereux, a former favourite of Elizabeth I, who was executed for treason in 1601 after he tried to raise a revolt against her?
Earl of Essex.
Correct. What 2-word Latin term, which translates as scraped slate, is used in psychology to describe the condition of the human mind before ideas have been imprinted on it by experiences?
Pass.
In which city in the northeast of England is the parliamentary constituency that was first to declare its result in 6 consecutive UK general elections from 1992 to 2015?
Scarborough.
Sunderland. Charlotte Brontë dedicated the 2nd edition of one of her novels to the writer William Makepeace Thackeray, unaware that he had a wife certified as insane. Which novel?
A Jane Eyre.
Yes. What name is given to the temperature to which a body of air must be cooled before the water vapour within it will begin to condense into drops of liquid water?
100 degrees.
Dew point. In knitting, what stitch is produced if 1 row plain is knitted followed by 1 row purl?
Stocking stitch.
Yes. The followers of which 19th century Italian revolutionary were known as red shirts?
Pass.
Which letter of the Greek alphabet appears between zeta and theta and in uppercase resembles a capital letter H?
Lambda.
Eta. You had 3 passes. Garibaldi was the Italian revolutionary. Scrape slate, clean slate, tabula rasa. Yeah. And the Hindu god of prophecy is Ganesh.
Yeah.
You have now a total, Catherine, of 14 points. And now David again, please. And you start out with 10 points, David. And you've got 2.5 minutes to add to that. Here we go. What's the usual name in English for the bronze statue created by Rodin and known in French as Le Penseur?
The thinker.
Yes. Which well-known Disney cartoon bird is the uncle of 3 characters called Huey, Dewey and Louie?
Donald Duck.
Yep. The right-hand page of a book is known in printing as recto. What is the left-hand page known as?
Pass.
In the television series My Family, which actress plays Susan Harper? Her husband Ben is played by Robert Lindsay.
Zoe Wanamaker.
Correct. Which Asian city was known as Hanyang when it became a national capital in the late 14th century, and then as Gyeongsong under Japanese occupation from 1910 to 1945?
Seoul.
Yes. At which battle of 1346 was Edward the Black Prince put in nominal charge of the vanguard of the English army so that, in the words of the French historian Froissart, the boy might win his spurs?
Agincourt.
No, Creasy. In the board game Scrabble, which is the only letter with a face value of 5 points?
V.
No, K. The name of which chemical element is an informal term in America and Canada for a 5-cent coin?
Nickel.
Yes. Which opera by Rossini is regarded as a prequel to Mozart's The Marriage of Figaro, although it was actually composed 30 years later?
The Barber of Seville.
Yep. What name from the Greek for hollow spine is given to a bony fish widely thought to have been extinct for tens of millions of years until a live specimen was discovered in 1938?
Pass.
What is the stage name of the actor and comedian Michael Pennington? He's a regular game show panelist and has played sitcom characters known as The Oracle and Wet Eric.
Pass.
Which nerve, sometimes called the second cranial nerve, is located at the back of each eye and carries visual information from the retina to the brain?
The optic nerve.
Yes. Antares is the brightest star in which constellation of the zodiac?
Orion.
Scorpius. The actresses Rita Hayworth, Jean Harlow and Greta Garbo are all mentioned in the lyrics of which song by Madonna? It featured on her 1990 album, I'm Breathless.
Vogue.
Yes. In which 1950 film does James Stewart play Elwood P. Dowd, an amiable drunk whose best friend is a 6-foot rabbit that only he can see?
Harvey.
Yes. In Judaism, what Hebrew name, which translates as Son of the Commandment, is given to the coming-of-age ceremony for a boy who has reached 13?
Pass.
Which playwright, a contemporary of Shakespeare, was advised by the critic Alexander Gill to go back to his former trade of bricklaying after the failure of his 1632 play, The Magnetic Lady? His previous works include The Alchemist and Bartholomew Fair.
Bacon.
No, it was Ben Jonson. And you have 4 passes. Bar mitzvah is the Hebrew name. You knew that, didn't you? Johnny Vegas is the stage name of the actor and comedian Michael Pennington. Coelacanth is that bony fish they thought was extinct but wasn't. And the right-hand page is recto, the left-hand page is verso. You have now, David, a total of 19 points. And finally, Eve, again, please. And Eve, you start out with 11 points. The score to beat, as you've just heard, is 19. So let's see if you can do that and get through to the semi-finals. 2.5 minutes of general knowledge starting now. What is the more common term for anthropophagy, the act of one human being eating another?
Cannibalism.
Yeah. The noun gross is an old term for what number?
50.
144. Which science fiction trilogy released from 1999 to 2003 stars Keanu Reeves, Lawrence Fishburne and Carrie-Anne Moss? The film's plot centres on humans who are enslaved in a virtual world.
The Matrix.
Yes. What term from a Greek word that means difficult to digest is the medical name for indigestion?
Heartburn.
Dyspepsia. Which lake divided between Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan was once the world's 4th largest inland body of water but has shrunk drastically in volume since the 1960s because of irrigation schemes?
The Dead Sea.
The Aral Sea. An influential treatise on political philosophy published in 1651 is entitled Leviathan, after a mythical sea monster described in the Bible. Who wrote it?
John Donne.
Thomas Hobbes. Which bright yellow Spanish liqueur takes its name from the number of ingredients used in its production?
Quattro.
43. Which American state was an independent republic from 1836 until 1845, when it became the 28th state of the Union?
Texas.
Yep. What is the name of the ruined fortification that overlooks the Derbyshire village of Castleton? It was known in the Middle Ages as the Castle of the Peak.
Pembroke.
Peveril. The bridal chorus commonly played at weddings is an excerpt from an opera by Wagner that's named after a knight in Germanic folklore. Which opera?
Pass.
Organisms described as eukaryotic, which include all animals and plants, are characterized by the presence of a structure in each of their cells which contains genetic material and regulates the activity of the cell. What structure?
The nucleus.
Yes. What name is given to a short poem in which the initial letters of the lines, taken in order, spell out a word or a phrase?
Stanza.
acrostic. Leonardo da Vinci, Condor and Kingfisher were the three classes in an international human-powered flying competition held for several years on the pier at Bognor Regis. What was it called?
Pass.
What insect closely related to the grasshopper and known for the chirping sound made by the males has a name derived directly from Old French?
Cricket.
Yes. Which character in the radio show Itmar, or It's That Man Again, was noted for the catchphrase, "Can I do you now, sir?"
Pass.
A set of 4 fundamental equations concerning electromagnetic fields is named after the Scottish physicist who proposed them in the 19th century. Which physicist?
Pass.
Well, I can tell you because you are out of time. It was James Clerk Maxwell. And you had 3 other passes. That character in Itmar, "Can I do you now, sir?" That was Mrs. Mop. And that human-powered flying competition was called International Birdman. And the bridal chorus from Lohengrin. And you have now, Eve, a total of 16 points. So let's have a look at the final scores. And here they are. In 4th place with 14 points, Catherine. In 3rd place with 15 points, Nigel. 2nd place with 16 points, Eve. 1st place, 19 points, David. Which means, of course, that David goes through to the semi-finals. Congratulations to him. And if you would like to be a contender in the next series, do go to our website, bbc.co.uk/mastermind, and you can follow us at Mastermind Quiz. And do join us again next time for more Masterminds. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.
Meeting the other contestants was brilliant fun, finding out what their subjects were, what I was up against, and understanding other people's passions as well. A very interesting mix of people and mix of subjects too. As I sat down, all I could think about was just how heavy my heart was beating. I've never known stress like it. Mastermind, it's the biggest quiz out there, and my dad has been on it twice back in the past. Both times he scraped into the semi-finals, and it's wonderful to have got that far. If I was to become Mastermind champion, and it'd be great personally, it would be a fun thing to have. But it would be nice to go one better than my dad as well.